Mark Warner of Virginia. He is the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You know a whole lot more than I do about this, sir. What can you tell us?
Well, Katie, I think it's appropriate that the president has all the options on the table. But we saw when he has such a confusing foreign policy, we don't know what's going to happen. We know a month and a half ago, or when the Iranian people were on the streets in massive numbers and the regime was so repressive, and he promised he was going to do something then. He couldn't do that then because we didn't have forces, because the aircraft carrier was off the coast of Venezuela on another military mission as opposed to being in the Eastern Mediterranean. And our ability to leverage our allies in the region, and particularly in Europe, they were all distracted by his follies around Greenland. I can tell you now, if I hope these negotiations go well. But having just come back from the Munich Security Conference, where there is great questions about, what is the American foreign policy? Are we going to be a dependable partner? If we were to take action against Iran, our ability to really put pressure on the regime, and the regime is awful, is really going to be undercut by the fact that our Europeans who have diplomatic relations with Iran, that have business relations that could put more pressure on as well, I'm not sure they're going to be fully there because of their uncertainty about the president's overall foreign policy approach. So we may have our armed forces in the region, and again, never take that option off the table, but our ability to have some kind of concentrated, coordinated effort with allies in the region and allies in Europe, as opposed to simply United States and Israel acting alone, is really going to be undermined.
Let me play one of your colleagues, Senator Graham, talking about what is happening right now with the president regarding Iran.
There is no light or gaps between President Trump and Bibi about what to do and how to do it. There are two lines in the water right now. One's a diplomatic line, trying to find a way to end this regime diplomatically that will advance our national security interest. The other line is the military option. I think President Trump is looking for which line can catch the biggest fish. The bottom line is we're into weeks, not months, in terms of decision making.
How, help me understand Lindsey Graham there. By the way, he's in Israel saying this. And it's not him saying that this is a nuclear sites agreement or pulling back on the nuclear capacity. It's him saying that the president wants this regime to end, and he's going to take whichever option is going to get him farther along the line to that end.
Well, let's go through this for a moment. First of all, remember the president said in our previous bombing that we had obliterated Iran's nuclear program. While clearly our military did an exquisite job, we did not obliterate Iran's nuclear program, number one. Number two, if the president is calling for regime change in Iran, and there's an awful regime, but he should make the case to the American public and to the world of how we're going to go about doing that. And to say we're doing it solely alone with Israel, without even what may be the views of those states in the region, the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, and others, whether they are going to be collaborating or not. Remember when when Iran struck back against Israel, for example, early on, stopping some of those missiles, it wasn't just the Israelis and the American, it also included the Jordanians, the Brits, the French, and others. And we now, if we're going to do this without potential allies and friends in the Middle East and without our friends in Europe, my fear is, while we all would like the Iranian regime to be gone, are we putting American forces in too much harm's way because we don't have kind of our natural allies all on our side on this? So I'd like to hear the plan. I'd like to have it cleared out. I hate the idea that the American foreign policy is being going to somehow be dictated by the Bibi Netanyahu government. I strongly, strongly support Israel, but I sure as heck don't always agree with the Bibi Netanyahu government. This sounds like a bit of bluster at times when this is a dangerous situation. We all agree the Iranian regime needs to cut back, but this kind of non-coordinated approach is not going to get us where I hope we need to be.
And the Iranians are, by the way, we can put up some of the social media messages from the Ayatollah. The Iranians are saying, you know, they're making their own threats. It doesn't sound like we're in the middle of negotiations, frankly. They're threatening their own force and sinking our warships and putting them at the bottom of the ocean. But I'm just hoping you can give this to me a little bit straighter, because you have a good relationship with Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. You say you want to see plans for what's happening. So it sounds like you haven't seen anything much from this administration. But how actually concerned are you that there are currently plans for a military operation in Iran? And do you believe that those plans are just, you know, pie in the sky plans, or are they actionable plans that the administration is ready to use?
Katie, I don't know. I'd like to say, well, I've been briefed, and I just can't tell you. I don't know. Now, a president always has the rights to take action, but normally that's normally when he doesn't brief Congress, or at least the Gang of Eight, that's because there is some emergency that precipitates a quick action, and then you notify or brief right afterwards. And we've seen, in the case of this administration, not even notification at times to the Democrats, which is totally inappropriate. And then on top of that, if this is part of a strategic plan to not brief congressional leadership, I think is a mistake. I think it goes against all norms and practices of other administrations, including Trump's first administration. And if we are thinking about this and not including our European or moderate Arab nations, Iran still has capabilities. Clearly, Iran has been on the back foot after their proxies at Hezbollah and Syria have been set back. Clearly, the Iranian regime is horribly unpopular with the Iranian people. And gosh, you know, seeing a regime change would make sense, but we don't have the level of inside knowledge. Now, Israel's got better knowledge than we do about what's going on the ground in Iran, but there are a number of other countries in the region that would have some ideas about what next. Should the regime or certain peoples in the regime move on? I'm not sure we're getting all that input, because I can tell you, coming out of the Munich Security Conference, when not only Europeans but players from around the world who traditionally we have called on as allies, and that we also oftentimes use their intelligence as well, people were rightfully pretty damn pissed off at this president. And, you know, for example, his callous comments about European nations that lost soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan supporting our troops, and callously being, you know, that sacrifice being disregarded by this president, or the craziness around Greenland. You know, the idea that that he is going to launch a war with just Israel at our side is not in the best interest of the United States at this point, without trying to build up alliances, without also, frankly, having consultation with Congress.
Let's talk about Munich a little bit more. The reports out of Munich were not good. You know, take you know, lawmakers and politicians out of it. The reports from journalists who have good, deep relationships with officials overseas, the reports have not been good. I want to play Zanny Minton-Betters, the Economist editor-in-chief on Morning Joe, talking about what she took away from the Munich Security Conference.
I think in Europe, there's a very strong sense that I got from the days in Munich, and indeed before in Davos. All this idea of what people call the global world order, the US-led over, it is over. The West, I think, is over as a concept, in the sense that there are significant differences now between what the United States administration wants and what many people in Europe want. And it is important to be realistic about that.
All right, so the West is over. NATO is over. Is that what you took away as well?
I took away that at the basis of, and as Zanny said, this is an American established world order post-World War II. Other nations benefit from it. Absolutely. And I agree with the president. The Europeans should pay more for their defense. But we benefit from this in enormous ways, militarily, financially, having the dollar being the leading global currency. This is a two-way street. And at the end of the day, it was based not simply on a document, for example, that established NATO. It was built upon a trust relationship. And that trust relationship has been so severed. I mean, in many ways, the most striking was with some of our Canadian colleagues. I mean, and the idea that somehow Canada now views China potentially as a more stable long-term partner than America, that is not in America's best interest. And what we were doing, and virtually everybody there, Democrat and Republican alike, was saying, hey, we still believe in this relationship. We still think we're stronger together. Please, we still like you guys. And they would say, well, that's fine. You as Congress may be individually, but what about your president?
Yeah.
And why haven't you pushed back more? And I couldn't respond when you say, why hasn't Congress pushed back more? Because some of the Republicans that were there were pushing back. But the fact that so many Republicans have simply gone along with this, I think, slightly loose cannon, undirected foreign policy from this president, where we burn our enemies, is flabbergasting me. I mean, I know this is not the subject right now, but could somebody explain to me what this country's policy, this administration's policy is towards China right now? Are they a competitor? Are we going to sell our most advanced chips? Or only with companies where Americans got a stake in the chip companies, where we get revenues? Has this totally moved away from where Trump won and Biden and Obama about the long-term threats from China?
I think that's a good question. Also, what are we doing with our automobile companies? Why are we not competing on EVs? Why are we not competing on solar power? Why are we ceding that market to China? Those are good questions. You're talking about lawmakers in Munich trying to calm our allies from Republican and Democrats alike. But all of them? I mean, Lindsey Graham was there, and there's reporting that he was tossing off insults about Greenland. You're quoted in a report from Julia Ioffe regarding Graham. What is Graham doing? And I guess, what is this administration, from what you can gather, are they just drunk on power or something else?
I was not in the meeting with the Danes, but the reports, the Danish government, but the reports I got were pretty horrifying, and from both political parties, and I think there was a lot of pushback. This is what, we started the conversation about Iran and the fact that if there is a plan, why wouldn't at least the Gang of Eight be briefed? If there is a plan, why can't we see more evidence that we're trying to recruit our traditional European allies in to be supportive? If there is a plan, what is happening with the countries who have been concerned about Iran for years, particularly the Saudis and the other Sunni nations in the region? And instead, we've got, we're going to play this out in negotiations and then do what? Is this going to be a strike? Is this going to be a full-fledged war? I mean, there was at least the argument a few weeks back when the Iranian people were on the streets that a strike at that point might not have caused the Iranian people to rally around the regime, but actually the opposite. But we missed that opportunity in ways, regardless of what was being said by the administration, because the normal military forces we would have in the region had been deployed on another presidential adventure in terms of dealing with Maduro and sending 20% of our fleet to blockade the Venezuelan coast. How long is that fleet going to be there? It takes the Venezuelan oil infrastructure 3 years to come back. Is 20% of our fleet going to be kept off the coast of Venezuela for 2 to 3 years? Lots of those sailors are deployed from my home state in Virginia, in Norfolk. I mean, what is their future? So this is of enormous concern. It has gotten me worried. How many times, can you say to the Europeans, hey, don't believe all, or not just Europeans believe this. This is where defense and foreign ministers come from around the world. that was a bit of an apology to her, or hey, this is not how we all think or believe. But if they then say, well, the president's calling the shots, and even Congress is not pushing back in a bipartisan way, then you can say, well, hold on, the good guys are coming back, or the more rational folks are coming back. But that doesn't go very far.
Yeah, well, because they're probably waiting to see what happens. I did hear that Gavin Newsom got a relatively good reception among foreign leaders, but again, a presidential election and who might come after, still a long way out.
But we don't have the luxury of saying, well, you just got to wait 3 more years.
Yeah.
Until and unless Congress reasserts its constitutional powers, and until we continue to see, what I fear is the attempt to politicize our intelligence community, until, as we've just seen over the weekend, again, military leaders who are supposed to get promoted being arbitrarily dismissed. One individual, because I believe he worked for the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, who I believe President Trump appointed in his first term. This is a type of behavior that has got our friends around the world reeling, and I just will leave you with this. America is not made safer if we don't have friends and allies around the world.
Senator Mark Warner, we can leave it at that, indeed. Thank you, sir, for joining us.